How much of this losing streak is on KD?
I'm going to put a lot of it on him. And it's a testament to his greatness that I'm putting it on him. Simply because Kevin Durant is not only one of the top 3 players, top 4 players on the planet Earth as far as I'm concerned, but he is somebody that's contemplating departing from the Golden State Warriors. He was in Oklahoma City years ago, and even though he was unquestionably the best player on the team, the alpha dog was considered to be Russell Westbrook to a lesser degree. What was the criticism of Kevin Durant back then? He didn't step up and be assertive enough to take the bull by the horn, remind everybody, including Russell Westbrook, this was his franchise and everything needed to go through him. Okay, so that was problematic in and of itself. So that was a big issue. Then you go to Golden State. Well, clearly, that's Steph Curry's team, and they could not have won the championship without Kevin Durant. We recognize that, Kevin Durant, the player, all right? Does that seem to be satisfactory enough? We don't know because he's contemplating leaving, according to numerous sources. So now what do we find ourselves thinking about? We find ourselves looking at Kevin Durant, not just a player, but the leader. You get into a beef with Draymond Green on the side, on court side on the bench, transitioning from regulation to overtime against the Clippers last Monday. Ever since that, you've lost 5 or 5 or 5 or 6, whatever.
I think it's like 4. Yeah.
They've lost 4 straight, and I think it's about 4 straight. So when we look at it from that perspective, what I'm saying to you is that if you're Kevin Durant, you got to recognize that you're one of the greatest players in the world. It ain't just about your talent. It's about your ability to galvanize troops and bring guys together. If Steph Curry is hurt, if Draymond is out like he was last night, you still got you and Klay Thompson on the court. Losing the game, that happens. Getting blown out, an entirely different matter. Kevin Durant, 31% shooting from three-point range. Klay Thompson, 32% shooting from three-point range. These are well below their numbers from last year. And collectively, defensively, they rank 27th in the NBA right now. Some of this is on Steve Kerr. He is the coach, obviously. And when you see how discombobulated they look, clearly some of the onus needs to be placed on him. But Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players on the planet Earth. It ain't just about your numbers. You got to lead.
I was on Zach Lowe's podcast last week or something like that.
Last week.
Yeah, and we were discussing Steph Curry, and he was making points about, I'm not sure that Kevin Durant is better than Steph Curry. My argument at the time was, and remains, in high leverage moments, and you see this across sports, why couldn't Peyton Manning succeed on the biggest stages the way he normally did? James Harden the way he normally did? A pitcher who doesn't have a 95-mile-an-hour plus fastball the way they normally do? They don't tend to play in the postseason. They don't have enough stuff, not enough athletic stuff on the highest level. And I've seen high leverage moments where Steph hasn't come through, partly because I feel he's not the biggest, strongest, fastest guy, right? It plays better in the regular season. So that's my argument. Ultimately, I take KD over Steph. The basket's way up in the air. He's 7 feet tall. Steph is closer to 6 feet tall. It's an advantage for KD. Now I'm going to make the argument. So we're talking about the regular season, and you're blaming KD. Why? It has nothing really to do with KD at this moment. This has to do with Steph Curry's absence, not just the leadership keeping it together. Draymond and KD wouldn't have gotten into the beef if Steph was bringing the ball up the floor. He makes a decision. He's trusted to make the decision. He's the glue. Actually, Draymond's the heart and soul. Steph is the glue that keeps it together. I'm going to talk straight numbers right now. And I'm going to tell you where I'm going to get this because Tom Haberstroh did a remarkable job really diving into this and laying it out very clearly. The thing about the way you look at numbers nowadays in the NBA, you look at points per 100 possessions, right? Like, what's the plus minus there? How much better are you than the opposition per 100 possessions? Well, check this out. With Steph Curry on the flick, with everybody on the floor, this dynasty 16.9 plus 16 points. They're outscoring 17 points. Their opponents. It's unheard of, right? You start taking all-stars away from Steph, it barely budges. It goes down, if you take everyone away, to 13.9 points. A couple of points difference. That's if Steph's by himself on the floor. Think about that. You take KD away, it goes down a point. You take Klay away, it goes down another point, something like that. You take Steph away, it drops all the way down. So, you have all of them together, no Steph, drops all the way down 5 points. They're outscoring their opponents. Now you do the same thing with everyone else, including KD. They're basically the same as their opponents. If a solo KD is actually, without the other all-stars, is actually is like minus half a point. The point is, anyone who doubts that this is 100% Steph Curry's absence, The numbers say the same thing your eyeballs tell you.
Yeah,
Steph is the engine that makes this
they be
team
able to
go.
do it without
that's
Steph Curry?
what I'm saying to you, Max. Here's why you're wrong. Because you're giving those facts, and they are unquestionable facts. What I'm saying to you is it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way if KD is what we all say he is. In other words, my point is you can point to all the numbers and the difference in the team without a 19-point per game drop-off. A 19-point per game drop-off with KD and Klay Thompson on the floor? That is a disgrace.
But it predates KD's arrival.
But I understand what I'm saying to you is that, yeah, because it predates KD's arrival was supposed to offset the kind of things that was happening before his arrival. The point is, if you look at the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry, I'm not saying they should win with the same degree. I'm saying you shouldn't look that bad. And it's not just about Steph Curry. It's about the lack of chemistry and cohesiveness. It's about the dissension, which we have witnessed. It's about Steve Kerr's absence of control over this team to some degree. I'm not knocking Steve Kerr. He's fantastic. He's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just talking about in the moment right now. You might have rested on the laurels of knowing that you had all of those guys.
Here's what I was saying.
And that's not supposed to be the case.
The system is based on the way Steph Curry plays. Now, if you had Damian Lillard on the bench, probably it would be all good. Quinn Cook can do certain things that Steph can do for a certain number of minutes, but there's a big drop-off. You would have to change the whole way they played basketball once Steph leaves the court in order for what you're saying to be true. Now, what KD is there really, in my opinion, is in those high leverage moments in the playoffs, you cannot beat the Warriors now. It's too much firepower. But it remains the fact that you take Steph out of the system, as Tom Haberstroh points out.
No,
he is the system.
100%.